Hello, welcome, good evening. Time for more Haskell live coding. I'm going to keep working on Showtime, which is a little util I wrote to plan effectively podcasts to manage the cast list for, it's like a random rotating cast list for a podcast. I already had an existing app that I wrote probably about a year ago, and it works by just picking a host and two participants randomly from a file. We have the list of people in there. And then last week I started to add an extra command to manage hosts, because previously I had to manage that file by hand, and I added commands for adding and removing hosts. I'm just going to continue with that work. So I kind of have longer term plans to improve the code, to look at things like maybe putting an effect system, maybe storing the data in Postgres or some database, building more interesting ways of interacting with it. But for now, I'm just going to do kind of relaxing, mundane Haskell, where I'm just going to add more and more commands in the same style. So I want to add some commands for managing participants, and maybe try and make sure that participants and hosts don't appear multiple times in the file. And yeah, I'll just keep working that. And then when I have all that in place, then I'll maybe come back to it and look at refactoring it and doing it in a slightly nicer way. But just picking up from last week, I effectively have this run function where we work out stuff. We work out what to do when given a bunch of arguments. So if the argument is empty, we just print out we just randomly pick a cast. That's existing functionality. But if we have a command, then we just call this go function, and then the only thing it matches at the moment is a list of hosts, or a command called hosts. Then we call this run hosts function, and then this just checks the next subcommand, and if it adds, then we call it run add host. If it's removed, then we call run remove host, and so on. The add and remove are really just handled by the storage layer. That's what the S stands for here. So in storage, I started doing some stuff last week, which was, I think, kind of interesting. It wasn't in here, it was in cast. Sorry, in cast. I created a new type for host. So previously, and in fact, when it comes to picking out the list of participants, it picks out people, and the person is just represented by text. But I don't think that's right. I'm going to slowly try and replace this. Yeah, so I created a new type for host, and it's just storing text, but it's now typed. So I can't just pass in the old text in there. I need to pass in a host, something that's been created with the host constructor. And then we got this unhost. I should probably call it get host. Might be clearer, I guess. But I will extract the text value and turn it basically back into text again. And then I wrote a Marshall instance. So I wrote a class called storable, which lets me marshal it. And to store it in the file, we just put the word host in front of it, and then the text value inside that host. So I'm going to do a similar thing for participant. So I go back to main, go back up to run. What I want to do is add another command, which is go and then participants. And then some subcommands. I might just call it subcommands, because participants are quite long to type. Oops. And that, not in insert mode. And that will be on participants, environment, and then the subcommands. And just up here, I might also rename this to be subcommands. Oops, subcommands. Okay. So I need to write a run participant, which is going to be very much like this. So I'm going to copy it. Let's grab this and change that to be participants. Can't spell today. I guess the same thing, right? We'll have an add and remove. It makes sense. So we will call run add participant, and run remove participant. So I'll just copy these. And if I've done this right, it should be super easy to implement. Remove participant. And it looks like I've not done it right, because I'm passing in the string rather than marshalling it. Okay, I'll have a look at that in a second. Variable not scope, remove participant. Okay. No, it is okay, sorry, because I'm turning it into a host type, what the host constructor is doing here. So I'm passing in something that's marshallable. Participant, and the same thing here. Okay, and those don't exist, so I need to go and add them to the cast. So we're going to have another new type. Use participant. And that is constructor participant. And then I'll call it unparticipant. I'm going to change them both to get, because I think get's slightly clearer. Participant. And that's going to store text. And then we'll create an instance for that. So instance storable participant where then Marshall of the participant is actually just the text value p. Okay, I can reduce that. Very exciting. Type it in there. And then we can export participant. So after host, we can do participant. Okay, so that should be enough to do the type for the participant. And back into main, I can now just import this. That actually kind of be it, because we go to storage and look at definition of add and remove. They take a storable thing and we've made participant storable. So Cabal build. And then have a look at the people file. I should be able to say something like, oops, Cabal run showtime XC host, but only do host this time will do participants. Remove Bippy. And then we look at the people file, Bippy is gone. Oh. Oops. And then I should be able to just move to the top. I should be able to say add Bippy back in again. And there we go, Bippy is back in there, which is cool. So that was easier than I expected. I might add another subcommand, which is list, which will just list the hosts. So I'm going to say list, and it should not have any extra arguments. I'm going to say run list hosts and the environment, and then run list hosts goes from append to IO I guess just IO, we can just print them out at this point. Okay, so run list hosts is s dot load. What does s dot load do? Okay, I want to replace this now, so we're not loading. We're not returning hosts and participants because these are nasty types. These are just lists of text. What I actually want to return is a list of hosts. So I might write a new function here called load hosts, and it goes append to IO, and then it's a list of hosts. Don't need the brackets. Add host import list. That's one thing. Okay. The load host, given some m, so we can read the contents in. This doesn't need to be efficient. So we can read the whole thing in the memory, and we can say filter prefix. Oh, what's the prefix command? Like has prefix or something. Prefix we're looking for is host in contents. So that actually gives back a list of hosts. Pure hosts. Okay, so we can't do this yet because we actually want to map it into host objects. Illegal term level use of type constructor or class host. Okay, I actually need to fix my import. So I'll put in the constructor as well. It's a very confusing error message. Has prefix is not a thing. So let me go and find Google. And what do we want to do? We want to go from string to bool, I guess. Although we are text, but I'll worry about it later. String to bool. Is prefix of. Okay, and is there a text bool similar? Is prefix of. Cool. Indeed, text. Is prefix of. And I should have imported text as t. Okay, so in theory, we're going to read the contents of the file, filter it. Here's one line. Filter t is prefix of host over that. And we can call this hosts. And then can we I could do it on one line, I guess, like this. Maybe, but let's not do that. Okay, and then we'll export this function. Export from here. Export load hosts. Look at that. Very cool. Okay. So in theory, it should give me back a list of hosts. I'm not happy about this because part of the nice thing about marshalling or about the storable is that the storage class doesn't need to know anything about what it's storing. But this load hosts means that it does need to know stuff. So I might go and fix that. But before I fix that, I want to finish implementing it, make sure it works, and then I can go and refactor it knowing that it does something at least. I can test it, I guess. Okay, so given some environment here, we want to do this. And then we want to do something like map m. We don't really want to map a thing, do we? Is it like a 4m? What does 4m do? It's not scope. Well, monad 4m, I don't know if it's the right function though. 4m, okay. Given some list of A's, to be the result of load hosts, and some function which goes from something in that list to some effect or some monadic thing, turn it into list monadic things. Okay, I think this is what I wanted, but let's find out. No. It's not what I want. Because this is m of list of, okay. I actually want to chuck away the thing, so it would be like that. But that doesn't seem like the right function. Okay, maybe it is mapm that I want. Let me go and find out. So given traversable t, given that I have got a list of TAs and I've got a function which goes from A to MB, we don't really care about that, and we want to go to that, which apparently is 4m underscore. So given a list of things, I want to call print on those things, takes the thing and produces some output. And then I should still be in the same monad, which is IO in this case, but I'm not returning any data from it. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Let's do that. Wait a second, this is already running in its IO host. Okay, so I can't fold IO, it's the things inside I want to fold. Let's like flip where I'm print. And that. Yes-ish. There might be a better way of writing that. So print, it doesn't work instantly. Print doesn't work because it I have no show instance on my host, so I can go and fix that easily. Instead of flip 4m, why not just map m? Okay, that's maybe the difference from map m and 4m. I can drop the brackets out of here, and I might swap the order around. So I can say s dot load host m and pipe that into map m. I'm going the other way around. Okay, and then we can get rid of that. And then the only problem we have left now is that print doesn't work. So if I go into cast and I take a look at host, so we can say instance, instance show host, where is there a way to derive that? Let's see if I can derive it. Deriving new type show. Deriving strategies. Can't make a derived instance. Shows with new type strategy. Perhaps I forgot to. I was intending to use generalized new type deriving. Perhaps I did. Okay. Don't really know what that means, but anyway, it's good to know. I can just add things. So I think that should work it out properly, but let's find out. So, does it build? It does. Okay. So can I now run hosts list? Not bad. It's not what I want to see, but it's not bad. So I am going to drop out the word host. I'll write my own instance, but it's still kind of cool that it could work it out for me. Kind of cool. Not super cool. So instance show host where show some host is just teaser unpack of unhost h. All right. I want the string unpack. Have I not imported that? Nope. Import data.text as t, oops, qualified. Okay, that should be enough for showing the host. So I run it again, it'll compile, and then not cool. So I still want to strip out the word host. Okay, so when we loaded it, we did it by matching a prefix. So I'm going to add another thing to my storeable class called prefix. And it's just text. And here I can say prefix is that. Sorry. But the prefix is just a const. I can just say const there, clearer. The prefix is so the prefix is just the word host. And then here the prefix is empty. So my thinking is in the storage class, I can load something. Oh, this is annoying. I was going to say I could pass in something which is storable and then load into it. Well, not load into it, but like I could pass in a host and then I could say, okay, I can get the prefix as a host. But I can't pass in the type host. It has to be an instance of a host, which seems wrong. So let's undo that. It's not a good idea after all. So for now, let's just do this where we're gonna we want to do a bit more work. So we want to strip out the leading host. So we can say something t dot strip prefix of host from that. Is not happy with that. Let me just write a quick helper function here. Right. So we're going to say load prefix and it's going to take a text and the content, which is also text. I wonder if filter worked, given this is not a call lines on it. And a read file gives me back a list of text. Cool. Okay, so we're going to take the thing we're going to strip out a list of text, and we're going to pass back a list of text with the prefix is stripped out. I'm going to call it load prefix, and I'm going to call it something better, which is like remove, like find and remove. Probably a better name for that. Okay, given some prefix and some lines, we want to do first we want to filter it. On lines. Oops. Okay, then we want to map t dot strip prefix. Strip prefix. Some prefix mapped over the result of that. So this should give me back a list. Oh, this is maybe text. Strip prefix might actually be all I need. What does that do? Does it return nothing if there's no prefix? Let's find out. So we call strip prefix over that. And then we can just say, what's the thing that gives us back the just? Not that. No, hang on a second. I'll look that up. So we want to go from a list of maybe A to a list of A. Cat maybes. Cat maybes returns a list of all the just values. Maybes. Okay. And it does take a list, so I should be able to do that. Use map maybe. we're using map, maybe it should be map. Maybe the function I want is this. Let me run it over the lines. What's this problem here? Import map maybe. Let's reduce it. Okay, this is not short enough. I guess put it in place, I think. We should say map maybe t dot strip prefix and then the word host. No, then get rid of this stuff. Okay. Okay, finally. Yeah, that's good, I guess. Still not happy about the word host appearing here, but we'll come back and look at that in a second. I also want to say load participants. Oops. Append IO list of participants. I'm going to import that. And then load participants. Given some env is do right. We want to load files where we don't have the prefix. So this will call participants. And this will be the constructor participant. Which generally it gets wrong. Ooh, so at the end. Okay, so we don't want to strip prefix host. What we're going to do is we want to say, we want to filter out all of the lines with the prefix host. So this prefix of takes two text returns true only if the first is a prefix of the second. Okay, so this should give me back the filtered out list, but it's the opposite of that. So it would be filter not that. So like it is not prefix of. That would be super handy if it was. So this prefix of and no opposite of that. Okay. So give them some value x, not this. I want to put lambda, yes. Tell me how. Well, not dot. That's what I got wrong. Okay. Okay. So I should now be able to load the participant list as well. So we go back to main. Here I can say run participants. Run participants given some environment. If the argument list is just list, then we say run list participants. Environment and name. There's no name, sorry, just environment. And it's basically this thing. Instead of calling load host, we'll call load participants. And there's no show instance for participant. Okay, this one should be easy. So instance show participant where show p is just show is just to unpack. Oh, I'll get participant. Okay, I'm going to rename unhost to get host. I find that a bit clearer, I think. And then if we go back to main, that error should have gone away. Yep, we can now call print. So we can call participants list. Okay. So our participants are Poppy, Hoppy, Hetty, and Bippy, obviously. If I try and add Bippy again, it doesn't add it, which is good. I just checked that's actually the case in the file as well. But it's the case. Okay. However, we've got a host called Bob. If I try and add a participant called Bob, this should fail because Bob is now going to be in the file twice. But it doesn't fail. So what I need to do is make sure that when we add someone that they're not in the list of hosts or the list of participants. Okay. So when we call add, saying unless it contains the line we're about to put in, but that's not quite right, I don't think. What we really want to do is we need to get the underlying string, the underlying text out of there. I don't think we got a way of doing that. So I could add it to storable. And this is going to be name. Oops, that's the instance. Go back to the class. And it's going to take some sort of thing and return text. And then the name of a host is just get host. And the name of participant is get participant. So what we now want to do is make sure that's not in the list of hosts or the list of participants. So we can say where exists, and it's going to go from text, which is going to be the name of the thing we're looking up, and return a bool. And this is going to be lm, like you say, exists some x. And we say x is not an element. of people, or maybe I say hosts. And X is not an element of participants. We need for that. We need to get all the people back. So people is just going to be IO. Oh, it's going to go append to IO2. In fact, I'm just thinking about this. I was going to write a function which gets back all of the people in the file. And then I was going to check that this person is not in that list. So I was initially thinking, let's check all the hosts and then all participants, but then I thought, let's just write a function which gets all the people back, and then we can just check it once. This could be X element of people. And then I thought, we already have that, and it's called load. In a sense, so it gives us back the split list, but let's say load all. It goes from append to IO. And I guess it's a list of text. I don't want to do that. No, I don't think I do want to do that. It's just I don't want to keep loading the storage class with knowledge of hosts and participants. As much as possible, I'd like to get away from that. So I really want to push it down to that. I don't know, can I push it down to cast? But it does need to know about hosts and participants a bit, because we have concepts of loading hosts and loading participants. I really want to just be using storables. So I'm wondering about the best way of doing this. Given the content of a file or some function on top of that, how do I check whether someone is in that file without explicitly knowing what hosts and participants? I don't want to match a substring. It kind of comes back to this thing. I want to be able to access the prefix, but I don't want to put it into this file. I'm not quite sure to get away from that. It's annoying me a little bit. So exists will go from text to pool, but we need access to the list of participants and stuff. Maybe it goes from this and a bunch of text. So we're looking for X in X's, and we're going to say either X is an element of X's, or, and then we can say host join to text is an element of. I call exists and then I can just inline it. So content exists in contents. It's buying for X. Okay, so looking for person in people's. Okay. So, what's in people at the minute? We have Bob in there twice. First of all, I can remove Bob as a participant. And then in the file, Bob is not there. And then if you try and add Bob as a participant, it didn't do anything because Bob was already in there. Okay, let me try and add Freddie. Okay, it does nothing. And if I try and add a host of Bobby, it did add Bobby. Okay, because the thing I'm trying to put in is the host of Bobby. So I need to call name of P. So the name of content did not deduce storable text arising from the use of name. Because we don't know what the content is. The content that loads is not storable. Wow, okay. We already have the name, I think. Well, I don't know. This is the X that's passed in is going to be like host X. So we can say that. And then we don't need this variable, I think, because it's only used in one place. Let's check it. Yep, it's only used there. So we just say Marshall X. Right, okay, so we read the file in, unless the name of X exists in the file, we add it. We're marshalling it. So going further, let's do host remove Bobby. People file, okay. So we're trying to add a host of Bobby. It should not have added. Cool. And we're trying to add a participant of Bob. Or Freddie. That should be fine. It should also do nothing. Okay, cool. So I can add, remove, and list people in this file. I've got 10 minutes left. I wonder if I can tackle on Marshall. Before I do, let me just commit those. So this is add commands to manage participants. What do we do here so we can add and remove participants. The other thing I did was I add list, list hosts and participants, and don't add host. I'll explain this. Don't add a host if they are already a participant, and vice versa. Okay, so 9 minutes left. I don't think I'm going to finish this, but I can maybe start. I have this function called load, which loads which loads host participants, and I want to kind of I don't even know how to do this. So I want to return, instead of host just being essentially text, I want it to be the host object, and then write show class for, we would have a show class for putting that out. So I want to load a string, and then I want to be able to spot that it starts with something. So it starts with, here we go, this is host, for example, which just says that it starts with host. We have is host and cleanup I could have used previously. I really wanted to put this into the definition of host, but I don't think I can. Or maybe some of it I could do, but not the prefix part. That's the worst. That's the annoying thing, is that when I know what type it is, but like when I know what the prefix is, I know what the type is, so I can use the correct type. But when I just have some text, I need to look at the prefix. I don't have a way of getting the prefix out of the type because I don't know what the type is. I don't have an instance of anything. But I wonder if I could write is host in a slightly different way. So in my storable class, we got Marshall. I'm going to write unmarshall. You're going to go from a text to an X. Does that work? I don't know if that works or not. Let's try it. We've got name, and I am going to add prefix back in again. So prefix is just const host, and unmarshall. 2 L's in unmarshall? I don't know. But 2 L's in marshall, so maybe there's 2 in unmarshall as well. And given some text, it's going to be host of strip prefix of the text. Something like that. And then we can say host prefix. It's going to go from string. That should be it's going to go from a string to, no, it's not a string, it's text. Text. and strip host prefix. Repeat the word host. It's quite annoying. We say host prefix is some text, and host prefix value is host. Okay, so strip host prefix is just going to be, what do we do? It doesn't start with a prefix. We could try this. Okay. So this is going to give us back maybe text, but now we're not going to do anything fancy. We're just going to say t dot strip prefix. And the thing we're going to strip is the host prefix and t, and then we do that. So this should actually be text maybe x. Okay. And here prefix is const empty string. So maybe it would be clearer about the prefix to it, but for now we'll just leave it as empty string. And unmarshal given some t is actually just participant t. So participant will always succeed. If you call participants with host Bob, you get participant with the name of participant was host Bob. It'd be a bit weird. It means be careful not to do that, I guess. But you can't say it's the prefix an empty string because it's always going to be an empty string. That would always succeed. Okay, back in the storage class. All right, so load prime takes an append and it goes to IO list of host and list of participants. So load prime m. I guess first thing we do is read the file content. And then I think is host. Yes, we could try it on Marshall. We try Marshall as text. As a host, sorry. So you do something like the host is unmarshal. Oh, hang on. We need a thing for lines. Let's say unmarshal line. That goes from a single text to some kind of text. So unmarshal line, given some input. So we will try and unmarshal this line as a host. It's not going to go to text. It's either going to go to a host or a participant. Let's go to maybe host for now. Okay. We're going to unmarshal the host. And then you should be able to say unmarshal t. And the only reason we have the function here is to force the type. So this works for loading hosts, I think, because there's a prefix in place. So we could say something like unmarshal host, and we'll apply that to every line in contents. And then you can just say pure hosts empty. Okay, it's not quite that. It's cat maybe. Of that. Import data. Oh, we have from maybe here. No, cat maybe. Was it cat maybes? Rather than cat maybe singular. And use map maybe. Okay. And then unmarshal is coming from storable. So that gets us back the host. And maybe we could say let participants. I want to in the cast file where I've defined participant. If I could tell it to unmarshal successfully if the prefix is not the host prefix. A map may be on unmarshal participant contents. Please change the word to host participant a lot. And in fact, we could then use these in the load host and load participants. Okay, so back to cast for a second. What we want to do is, instead of t.strip prefix, we want to do the opposite. So we want to do like a without prefix. without prefix host prefix t. So without prefix is going to go and take the prefix, which is text, and going to take the thing, and I'm going to return maybe text. So we're looking for prefix and some string, and we can say case t that is prefix of p of s. If it's nothing, so it's not a prefix, then we return just s. But if it is a prefix, then we return nothing. Oh, this is true and false, sorry. Yeah, use if. Is that for me? Yes. Okay. So it's kind of the inversion of the is prefix of, right? Like the strip prefix thing. Okay, so if it starts with a host prefix, then we ignore it. Oh, hang on. If t dot is prefix, if it starts with a prefix and it's nothing, otherwise we return it. So right, let's not bother passing it in. Let's say without host prefix. And then I can read this to be without host prefix. And it takes one less argument. I might just call this x because it's better. Obviously, x's are better. So we already have the constant host prefix. Nothing else, just x and one less argument. Okay. So in theory, we can unmarshal both of these things. Okay. So if I go back to main, another command called list up here. So top level, we say list with nothing after it. Then we say run list with m. Run list. Given the app m, it is going to return. Not going to return anything. It's going to do some stuff. So run list of m is going to say host and participants. And we should be able to say load s dot load prime of env. And then we should be able to print these things. Let's just start printing out hosts. It's not puts, it's println putstrln. Okay, we'll print out the word hosts, and then we will I guess just print show mapped over the hosts, and then we will print out participants. We don't need to say show if we're calling print, because print will call show for us. Oops, this whole thing can go actually. Every line, every part of that was wrong. Participants. Okay. So when I say just list hosts, Freddie, Bob, and Betty, participants, these people. Okay, cool. The thing that I was interested in there is that I managed to load it without ever saying this is the prefix. So load host, I could probably get rid of this as well. So unmarshal as a host. Right. I wonder if I can just do this. We read the file in, and then we try to marshal it, and it knows it's trying to marshal it as a host here. So I build that. I say hosts list. That works. Cool. So I no longer have the prefix of host in there. So in here, we should be able to just use unmarshal again. Map maybe unmarshal read file end. And then participants list. That works as well. Okay, cool. So that's good. This is the thing I still want to get rid of. But I'm out of time, so I'll come back and look at it next week. We've got commands for loading and storing and listing hosts and participants. And I've started to detach the idea of how these types are, what these types are from the storage, which should be relatively generic. It knows that there are hosts, it knows there are participants, but it doesn't need to know how those things are marshaled or unmarshaled, except for when we add, where we've done a bit of work. But that's the only place, I think. Yeah, I should be able to get rid of these soon. Okay, cool. So yeah, thanks for watching along. Next week I will tackle add, I think, down here, and then I'm going to have a look at append, and look at moving this to some kind of, probably to some kind of reader TIO, but I don't know yet. Find out. But cool. Yep. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you next week.